Now our challenge is going to be, as the user type their name, we should have it appear live down here, letter by letter. How can we do that with events? Well, let me show you two different types of events that we can listen for. In my JavaScript, I selected the form and I selected the copy text form, which is this right here. Now, I also left you this link. Go to this link and you can read all about forms and what you need to do, what the best practices are, what attributes you need to have, and so on. Okay, so we have the form, my form.add event listener. Okay, so there's two types of event listeners that we should use when we're trying to read user input. One is the on change, or just change. And one is on input, or just input. Okay, and we'll use input for now. I'll explain the difference after. So input, and then I will have a function called handle input, which I will define here. Function handle input takes an event listener, event object I mean. Okay, so input fires the function every time a user presses a button. So when they type anything, even if it's a backspace, this event runs. So what happens when it runs? Well, we want to save whatever they type, right? So I'm going to get this copied form and set its text content to what? To event.target.textContent. Does that work? It's not working. Why is that? Let me tell you. You use text content when you're trying to grab the text in an element that's not an input element. Okay, so if you're trying to get text that's already pasted by JavaScript, you use .text content. If you're trying to get the text that the user inputted, you have to use .value. Okay, so this line is setting the text content of this paragraph here to the value that the user types in. And since this function runs every time a button is pressed, we will always get the right values. Let's try that. PHIL. See how it appears on the bottom as well? And what happens if you erase? It actually erases in real time. Cool, right? Now, what if instead of input, I put change? When I type in fill, nothing happens. But if I press enter, it gets pasted. So on change or change only runs after the user typed it and presses a button to save, or the user clicks outside of the text box. So if I add a bunch more, nothing's going to happen here. But if I click outside the text, it gets updated. Okay. So if you have a form that has all of these fields like name, ID, social security, and then you have one button at the end that submits the whole form, then you can use things like on submit or on change. If you're trying to record live user keystrokes, you should do input. Okay, and there you go. Now, once again, let me remind you, instead of this, we could also have done myForm.onInput. Remember, if you do it the dot notation way, you're going to need the word on before your event handler type. Same with if you're doing it from HTML. Instead of on click, it should be on input. Okay. So myForm.onInput is equal to handle input. That works too, right? This actually looks very simple and very cool, but it's less readable. Okay, let's move on.